Well, my brothers and sisters, we're kind of doing double duty today with our Mass because it is the third Sunday of Advent, but today is also the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And this vestment that I'm wearing is actually quite special. It was made by contemplative nuns in Mexico near the Basilica. They only make 2 of these a year and are very choosy which priests they give them to. And when I was serving in Arcadia and Alma Center after leaving here the first time around, my first year there, the people of Arcadia and Alma Center petitioned for me and got one of these. And so I've had it since. And so I wear it for all the big Guadalupe celebrations. I have to be careful, though, because the people in Abbotsford, the Hispanics, also gave me another vestment made by other contemplative nuns in Mexico. So I'm really not allowed to wear this one in Abbotsford, if you know what I mean. So I wear it in Dorchester instead. It's a big problem. And then I have 3 other Guadalupe vestments, too. So we got 5. I'm a Guadalupan priest, I guess. I guess that's what you get when you do your doctorate on Guadalupe. But it is quite wonderful. You know, for us, we are doing double duty. I want to talk a little bit about Our Lady of Guadalupe. As you know, we have the image of Guadalupe here on the wall. I'm sure someone had a good idea to put that image up there, you know. But there's a really big reason why. But first off, our gospel reading today, we hear how John the Baptist is saying to them, "But there is one among you whom you do not recognize, the one who is coming after me." And so they're asking John, "Who are you?" And I just love the question in here because it's like, just let the guy answer. I mean, you keep giving him yes or no questions, you keep striking out. Just let the man speak. And when they finally let him speak, they don't like what he has to say. He's with you, the Messiah is here, and you don't recognize him. He's coming after me. I'm not unworthy to untie his sandal straps. And you can imagine the people at that time didn't like hearing that at all. But quite frankly, this is what had been going on for all of Jesus' life. I mean, let's recall Jesus' birth. I mean, the Israelites had it all. They had umpteen prophets in the Old Testament prophesying about the coming Messiah. King David, Isaiah, Micah, Jeremiah. I mean, the list goes on of all the prophecies of the birth of Jesus. They knew when, they knew where, they knew how. Virgin. They knew he'd be of David's line. I mean, the 3 wise men put it together. Why couldn't Jesus' own people put it together? And I think the reason is one that hits home a little bit for us as well. It's because we get very, very comfortable with our own way of practicing the faith, with our own way of praying, with our own way of seeing the world, with us justifying what we think is good and wrong and all these good things. And sometimes for us who really do pursue God, the trap is we kind of get a little sidetracked. We go part of the way, but not all the way. And we kind of miss the one who is among us. I think for each of us, the goal of Advent is to really renew that desire, that hunger in each of us to encounter Christ in a new, in more deep and authentic way. It is for us to truly see him among us and to really have a desire for the things of the faith. It is a sad day when going to Mass is not the favorite part of our week. When praying at the end of the day or the beginning of the day is not the best part of the day. I mean, the best part of waking up is not Folgers in your cup. It should be our morning prayers. I mean, that gets us going a whole lot more than coffee. And frankly, you can pray with coffee and have best of both worlds as long as you're praying. At the end of the day, to pray as a family, to pray with the Lord, and to thank him, to commend our spirits to God and practice for the one day when we do it for real and trust in our spirit and that God will take us to the place he has prepared for us in heaven. And this is where Advent really is a time, hence the word Advent means coming, to really recognize the coming of Christ, not just in the Nativity story 2,000 years ago, but in our daily life and throughout all the twists and turns of the day, to really be attentive to this most fundamental and important relationship in our lives. But isn't it true, that if we think about what the foundation of our faith is, so often for a lot of people, faith and belief in God really comes down to difficult moments in our life when God was there, when God saw us through, when the twists and turns could have went so bad, but didn't because of God's grace. And this is a good foundation to have for faith, without a doubt. But for us, the true foundation is that daily living with Him. This is why when you talk to Hispanic Catholics in town here, they will point to Guadalupe as being one of the most essential devotions in the Hispanic Catholic faith. Why? Because she appeared in Mexico during some of the darkest days of their entire human history. I mean, those 10 years between the conquest of Hernan Cortez and the apparition of Guadalupe in 1531 were some of the darkest chapters of our history. I mean, you want to talk about human rights violations? You want to talk about people being maligned? You want to talk about a virus? 90% of the population died. It was horrific. And for people like Juan Diego, they lost everything they knew, everything that was beautiful, everything that they were familiar with, their entire culture, their way of life, their dignity, their purpose for living, everything was gone. In fact, Mary asked Juan Diego at one point in the third apparition, the day that he took the roses to the bishop, right before this, Mary asked, "What's going on?" And Juan Diego answered, "Mary, we are born to die. We have no purpose in living. We're just born to die. We're nothing. We're nobody." And how tragic it is how many people feel that way in their own lives these days, how many people do not have hope. But see, why did Guadalupe appear in Mexico? Well, the answer is because the bishop asked for it. See, Bishop Zamarriga was in very difficult straits during those years, and the governor of Mexico was actually trying to kill him, literally. In fact, during a Eucharistic procession in 1527, the governor, Niño Guzman, a really bad guy, actually threw his spear from the balcony and tried to kill him as he was carrying Jesus in procession with all the Catholics. And so that a year later, he wrote the King of Spain, hid his letter in a rum bottle saying, "Unless the hand of God intervenes directly in Mexico, all will be lost." And he and his priests and the people prayed for God's direct intervention. And Mary answered that question. And what was Mary's petition? What did Mary ask for in the apparition? That the bishop build a church on Tepeyac Hill, that all may come to know her Son, that all may come to receive the sacraments and recognize the new civilization of love that they are being called to be part of. This became the great hope of the continent. And as 6 million Catholics were leaving the Catholic Church in Europe because of the Protestant Reformation, changing the faith completely, writing their own book, literally changing the Bible, 8 million Catholics joined the church in the same period in Mexico. In fact, the priests in Mexico were baptizing so many people at Tepeyac that the majority of them lost movement in their right arms because of overuse. Some priests chronicled how they were baptizing over 1,000 people a day. So massive was the conversion because of Guadalupe. And it all came down to that Mary was among them. See, Mary appeared in the tilma, Juan Diego's clothing, and she appeared as one of them. But she's not Aztec, she's not Indian, and she's not Spaniard. She's Mixteca, meaning the mixing of the two races. And realized at first this mixing was not good. It was a fruit of many violations, if you will. And these were the kids that were not accepted by the Spaniards or by the Indians. Spaniards wouldn't accept them because they weren't pure blood. The Indians wouldn't accept them because they were a reminder of horrific and tragic things. Mary came as the lowliest of that time. Mary also came, and the image is actually the basics of the Catholic faith written in their culture, in their language. And all of the symbolism points to that. In fact, in the image, we see that Mary is pregnant with Jesus, who is coming to teach us a new way of worship. Also in the image, we see that Mary is praying and giving reverence to Christ in front of the cross. And Mary is doing this in the way that the Indians could understand very easily and come to appreciate. This is why when they saw the image of Guadalupe, they immediately wanted to be baptized, where before they wanted nothing to do with it. They wanted nothing to do with the Spaniards, nothing to do with European culture. With Mary, it all changed. But the key was they recognized that Mary was among them. Because Mary was with them, so was Jesus, her son. It was through Mary that they recognized the presence of Christ, and not the presence of Christ in the church in that moment. They recognized God's intervention throughout the whole history of their tribes and how God was preparing them for the coming of Guadalupe for centuries. How many of their mythologies, albeit not Catholic, not Christian, had seeds of truth and faith to help them to see the real reality of God and his love for us. I think for each of us, this is how Jesus works in our lives as well. And this is where we need to work as a church. Because if you look at the early church, why did they have so much success in preaching Christ crucified to everybody? Is because they were able to do it in the cultures of their time. They were able to help the Greeks see that God had been among them, to help the Israelites see the prophecies in the Old Testament, to help them to see the larger human history and how God had been part of it from the beginning. And for us now, when we think ourselves so scientific and so civilized and so advanced that we don't need history, this is a perfect time for all of us to be deeply rooted in the 2,000-year history of the church, to understand how our forefathers and mothers did it in the past, and to really take on that spirituality for the present. We're going to have a lot of work to do when this coronavirus stuff lifts. There's going to be a lot of rebuilding to do. There's going to be a lot of people to invite back, a lot of people who need healing, who need new purpose and direction in their lives. I don't know about all of you, but I've definitely seen the carnage of these last 9 months all around. How disastrous it has been to so many families, to so many youth, to so many kids. How hard it's been on so many of our working professionals, especially in the medical field, but other services, the police, the firemen. It's been so hard. And this is where the church, our faith, is really that answer. To help them to come to recognize Christ who has been among us. Even though we may not have realized it, even though we thought that God was irrelevant because the church is seemingly closed, even though we could have 9 people. He was truly here with us and has been with us and has much to say and to teach us yet through what we have all endured, what we've all been through. But yet, for us in Advent, this is a time of hope and of joy. We cannot live as if we're oppressed. We cannot live as if God just sends us bad things, because that's not the case at all. I think in so many ways, I think we can all agree, coronavirus probably has a lot more to do with us than it with God sending it. We kind of did it to ourselves as humanity. But yet God's mercy is in it, and he's here to help us. As we celebrate these 2 weeks till Christmas, it's going to be a strange Christmas, there's no doubt. It's going to be quieter. It's going to be devoid of a lot of traditions maybe we once had. It's going to have new meanings, new traditions. But I hope the thing for each of us is that Christmas is a feast day. It is principally a day to give praise and thanks to Jesus. And that maybe as we're kind of forced to put away all of our busyness and some of it that has dominated our Christmases in the past, maybe we can put more attention towards our faith, towards prayer. You know, a lot of parts of the world, they actually fast on Christmas night and Christmas Day. It's a fasting day. They don't eat meat. Maybe that's something for us to take up, change it up a little bit. There's a lot of parts in the world where people go to multiple masses and to really make the day a holy day. But the one thing I think would be beautiful for each of us to really strive for is to read the Christmas narrative in the Scriptures. You need to open up the Gospel of Luke and to read about Christmas and to really see the meaning it has for us in the light of everything that's come this past year. And to really look anew at these eternal truths and how Christ has been among us, and how we have seen him and not seen him, how we've recognized him a bit and not recognized him. But through our eagerness, through our prayer, through our turning to Christ, God willing, we'll see him even more. It's so easy for us to ask God loaded questions, like the Pharisees and scribes are today. Are you this? Are you that? Are you this? How about we just let God speak for himself? Just like Bishop Zamarga, unless the hand of God intervenes directly in Mexico, all will be lost. Maybe we need to pray a similar prayer for Dorchester and for Abbotsford and for our surrounding community, praying for the direct intervention of God, praying that he will truly show us that he is among us, that he is with us. I think this is the difference between the early church and the church today. The first generation of the church truly knew Christ was with them because he was recent memory. There were stories of miracles. There were people who had been cured directly by Jesus and the apostles. Everyone could see it and experience it. Maybe we've gotten a little too far away. Maybe we've kind of forgotten the immediacy of Christ's presence among us and the great things that he is still doing. So I encourage each of us to really look for ways that we can increase our fervor for the faith. Cracking open the Bible, maybe looking at our catechisms a little bit more, digging into things that we want to learn more about the faith, maybe reading about the lives of saints that inspire us. I think there's a lot for all of us to do. I must say I've been very proud of our parishes, just the way we've been working so diligently, especially in the mobile pantry, but in so many ways. So many ways we have outreach in our parishes. And I think it's really, really wonderful. But those outreaches are in vain if we don't recognize Christ among us. We do all these things in vain if we don't realize that we do them for Christ and that Christ is truly directing us and directing the direction that we are called to go, that we need to go. So as we pray this Mass, let us pray for this deeper realization of Christ among us, and let us pray also that through Our Lady of Guadalupe, we may truly recognize the reality of God, that she may dispel the darkness of our doubts and skepticism, and that we may have a simple and profound faith that truly recognizes Christ every moment of our lives. God bless you.